Scott, the Auld Stars are back.
Aye.
There was some doubt last year that you were ever going to do this again, but you are.
I know, I think, in terms of local, I think for the community and stuff, I think it's quite a good thing to do. Well, I'll tell you that after Sunday, but yeah, no, to be honest, it's been a bit of a struggle putting a squad together, so, we're Wednesday night and we're still trying to fill the last 2 spots. So eight willing bodies, 3 of us returning from last year, so me, Niall and Joe Nyathaver returning from last year, and then that'll be aided by Bobby Beattie, Michael Fido, Sam Pecure, Russell Weir and Michael Fido. So that's the 8 that we're at the moment. So everybody's looking forward to it. A bit of camaraderie back in the changing room together for the last time. But look, we won it last year, so we felt it was only right to try and put a squad together to go again this year.
Quite a lot of caps amongst you all, including Scott Riddle, who's I think the most capped Sevens player playing for Scotland.
Yeah, he is 333 games,
yes.
Scotland Sevens, so leading cap of all time. So he was actually gutted last year, so he was involved in GB. He was actually supposed to be in the squad last year, so he was actually gutted. He was away with GB, so he's freed up this year, and he's keen as ever for a game of sevens, as he'll tell you. Someone that lives and breathes it. I think in terms of even my time there, someone that was really passionate about the game of rugby. So it's great to I see him. I've not seen him in a while actually, so it'll be great to catch up with him for a bacon roll and a coffee on Sunday morning before we head across.
And that's literally all your warm-up, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've invited everybody down to the house, so we'll meet early in the morning, 11 o'clock, coffee, bacon rolls. We'll have a bit of catch up. Obviously, thanks to Fjordhus again for sponsoring the kit, and Border Embroideries, they're doing the warm-up t-shirts. So a couple of sponsors came on board to give us a couple of bits of kit. Rory obviously will get involved, my son, so he usually likes doing a wee jersey presentation before we leave the house, so he'll maybe jump at the chance and do a wee jersey presentation, and then we'll head across to Earlston for the back of one for the first game, Earlston v Edinburgh University.
Fantastic for the Earlston Sevens, of course, to have a team like this, star-studded last year and this year, but is this the final one?
Certainly for playing, I think, and I think even that's visual in terms of the squad that we're naming this year. Essentially is getting younger. Bobby Beattie's still playing, but obviously was a huge part of Sevens, but a few of us are getting creaky old bodies, hence the reason there's only 3 boys keen to play from last year. So I think once is enough, and I think but not to say that we'd never do it. I think it's good to put these players on show, and it gives somebody speak about, I dare say, and and shows in terms of. So if people are keen and Earlston invite us back, I wouldn't say that we wouldn't bring an Auld Stars team back, but certainly for playing, this is me done.
And it's certainly a tough one, isn't it? First up, Jed Forrest.
Yeah, one
with
of the
young twins.
I dare say one of the, I thought about actually asking them to be fair, but I thought, it's not really fair in terms of what we actually try and do locally, and local clubs, but Lewis and Gregor were part of the Sevens when they first went in there, so, it'd have been good to have Lewis and Gregor on board, but, I think, you've essentially done the right thing. I think it's important that you support local clubs, and, Jed are obviously, fighting for Kings of the Sevens points as well, so, yeah, not easy, and I dare say, they're 2, 3, they'll be four tournaments in by the time Sunday comes, so there's that bit of cohesion. You're obviously playing sevens together week in, week out in terms at the moment in the Kings of Sevens circuit, so they're 4 tournaments deep, so it'll be really important that we look after the ball for long periods of the game to have a chance.
Now, of course, putting on your other hat as a Melrose head coach, co-head coach, and they're top of the table again. Slipped up a wee bit at Langham, but this is traditionally a good weekend for the team.
No, look, we've got a great group of boys. A great group of boys that are wanting to play sevens, and I think that's one thing that has a huge tick in the box before you even start. When sevens come, it's weird. We speak about it through the week that all of a sudden you put a weekly trophy in place. All of a sudden, boys' momentum. We're saying, how do you get this 14 or 15 games into a season? But I think when it goes weekly tournaments and there's trophies to be won every weekend, Thursday night there we've still got 26, 27 boys training. And it's great to see we're sending a squad of 10 up to Musselburgh on Saturday as well. So there's loads of opportunities there. As I say, look, great group of guys. They've taken it pretty hard this weekend on themselves. But I've actually kind of stepped back a wee bit from the sevens, to be honest. So Carl Anderson and Dougie actually kind of Carl heads up and Dougie kind of assists. So, you know, I've just been in the kind of odd night here and there and helping out, and you know, I've been given the remit of kickoffs, so been in working with the kickers and working on the pod work. So, but as I say, look, a pleasure to work with. They turn up, they want to get better, and you know, Saturday kind of hurt them in terms of the manner and the way that they got beat, especially after winning 2 tournaments week 1. So, there's been a real focus this weekend. You know, there's 20 points up for grabs. And you know, it's great to see the likes. I think Donald Crawford will feature this weekend, so great to have Donald back. He came back from an Achilles operation and then came against Hoyk and only managed to last 20-25 minutes and tweaked his calf. But Donald's put, you know, a good few weeks of work in terms of from the Hoyk game. So Donald will feature at some point, whether that's both tournaments as he would like. But I think, you know, the sensible hat is that he'll play one tournament over the weekend because both tournaments are 10-man squads at the weekend. It'll be interesting to see what kind of squad Watsonians bring down, because you know, if they bring their big guns, you know, they'll be a really tough competition. So, but there's a real focus in terms of Edinburgh Uni first up. So got them first up, 4th tie at Kelso, and boys are focused to make sure and pick up as many points as possible this weekend.
And it really means a lot to the club, doesn't it, to become kings of the sevens again?
I think every year there's such a big focus on winning kings. You know, it's great to go around and support local clubs, and I would maintain, you know, Melrose, you know, we will definitely send our strongest 10 to every tournament to try and win every tournament, and that's a given. You know, that's essentially, we'll go there to win tournaments. We're no, you know, same as any man, you know, you're not there to be second. And as I say, we had a great weekend first up in terms of, you know, we had given the guys a week off after season, and we've only really done 3 weeks of sevens, so it was great to see them pull that together at Hoyk and Berwick. But we know teams are going to get stronger, you know, in terms of there's more tournaments, the more weeks they play together. But Edinburgh Accies are starting to get back up to strength. Heriots obviously at the weekend, Rory Leishman, your Callum Andersons, boys from the 15s are dropping back into sevens, and then obviously you get Watsonians coming in all guns blazing for the last few tournaments. So, you know, we're no silly. Teams will get stronger, teams play more ties together, there's that more cohesion, so it's making sure that, you know, we stay ahead of everybody essentially.
And just finally, I mean, the K7s circuit has been very similar for the past sort of 10 years or so. There are talks going on at the moment about, you know, changing it up a little bit, involving, you know, the Edinburgh clubs a little bit more and things like that. How do you see it going in the future?
I'd like to definitely see someone, you know, essentially, you know, everything cries out for a bit of money, but, you know, first and foremost, if you get a big sponsor involved. But, you know, for me, I think in terms of, it definitely needs looked at. I think, you know, in terms of squad-wise, we're quite fortunate. You know, we've got, as I say, 24 boys, we're fielding 2 squads of 10. You know, not every club will be able to do that at the end of the season. So we're in a fortunate enough position. But, you know, the double weekends are definitely hard for boys, especially, you know, this week in terms of 2 squads of 10, it does take its toll on the squad. So does it need freshened up? Do you need a kings and queens? You know, I don't know, in terms of a tier at the top and a tier below.
Prince, I think,
a Prince,
better than queens.
Yeah, well, kings and Prince. What does that look like? How many? You know, do the Edinburgh clubs actually really come into it? You know, because in the past, certainly, you know, our experience, it's only really been Watsonians and Edinburgh Accies that have really committed to it over the years. You know, it'd be great if more clubs bought into it essentially from further afield, and you know, you had that real identity. But what that looks like and how you restructure that, you know, I think it would be a great conversation to be involved in around the table.